My computer got busted this week, and I had to spend the next 3 days trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with it and fix it. There was a lot of dead time because I was transferring files from one place to another, and it takes a ridiculous amount of time. So I needed something to fill some of that dead time. There is a weird place in the American zeitgeist, I guess you'd say, for King of the Hill. If you're familiar with this show. Started way back in the 90s. Mike Judge, coming off of Beavis and Butthead, came up with this show. It was about a guy named Hank Hill living with his family in the fictional town of Arlen, Texas, and all the colorful characters around there. But the one thing about them, this show stayed on the air for 14 seasons. No, 13 seasons. Sorry. Correction. Big asterisk. This show stayed on the air for 13 seasons. And in addition to that, like not just being on Fox, for the next decade after that, they became a staple of syndication and Adult Swim and just ubiquitous, if there was ever a good use of the word. Just to give you an idea of the sense that went around the ubiquity of King of the Hill, I saw a video from a guy named E. Wastelander, or well, the account is named E. Wastelander, how he took a TV radio clock from like the 90s and designed it so that whenever you turned it on, it would always be playing an episode of King of the Hill, just so you could have that sense of being in that certain time. It would always be on. That was kind of how it felt. I mean, it seemed kind of corny at first. In fact, that's the entire premise of Hank Hill, is just corny as hell. It seemed really corny, but as time went on, it became really, really, really endearing. But of course, time does go on. And, well, shows get canceled, especially after 14 years. Looking at you, South Park. Time goes on, a decade passed by. Seemingly out of nowhere, 2022, Mike Judge comes back and says, you know what? We're doing another season. And they're jumping it ahead 10 years, which is where we are now. And as brings me back to my fixing the computer, as I was watching King of the Hill in the background, I noticed that the new season dropped on Monday. And I'm like, okay, that seems something I'll fill the time with. I liked it so much, in part, and this is weird, the sum total of all those years of coming to terms with Peggy and Bobby and Boomhauer and Dale and Hank, their interactions, their who they were, there's a little bit of a sameness to it. Even across 14 seasons, we're still stuck in that same timeless year where Bobby hits about 13 years old and stays there for that entire 14 years. Nothing really moves forward a lot, even though there are some remarkably dated moments like Y2K and Bush and Gore election, which, wow, that was an innocent age. Good God. No idea what was coming after that, huh? While things did change, the overall vibe was Bobby's 13, Hank is middle-aged, selling propane, you know, Dale is Dale. Nothing's really, forever. Nothing's going to move. And then the revival series jumps ahead 10 years from kind of when we last left them. And things do move because Peggy and Hank are now 7, 8 years older. And Bobby's now 21. He's got a restaurant now. He's doing his fusion cooking and stuff. Peggy and Hank lived abroad. They came back. Much like The Simpsons, they've made a decision consciously that it's time to move on from white actors playing roles for people of color. So now we have Joseph, who is part indigenous, has an indigenous actor We have Toby Huss, which also used to do the voice of Cotton Hill, was the voice of Khan, Super Nusiphone. And Mike Judge tried to excuse this by saying, well, we didn't have the budget to hire character actors for every, so we had to kind of double up. And I'm like, okay, Mike. Bless your heart. Okie dokie, Mike. Well, now they have Ronnie Chang is doing the voice of Khan. And Lauren Tom is still both Min and Connie. That's another freaky one. Lauren Tom is in her 60s. Back then, she was in her 40s doing the voice of a 13-year-old girl. Now she's in her 60s doing the voice of a 20-year-old girl. You'd never know. She's got this voice that just, I don't know how she does it. Voice acting, everybody. It's amazing. Pamela Adlon did Bobby's voice. Well, she's still doing Bobby's voice as an adult. It's this strange range of actors across genders and ages and such taking on these different roles, and it's fascinating in its own right. If you're anything about voice acting, it is kind of fascinating. It is still very topical. They do touch on stuff like, Uber and social consciousness. Although King of the Hill always had this version of social consciousness that was liberals as seen through the eyes of someone from LA as set in Texas, which always seemed a little exaggerated and not quite on the money. It's a little less so these days, I do have to say. But the resolutions of it, some of the storylines involved, aren't terrible, I will say. And there is even moments like we've reached a point in time where Dale, the super conspiracy theorist, is seen as a voice of reason in our troubled age. Not for good reasons either. It's all bad. And Hank has to react to this, people seeing Dale and they respect his opinion on things. Of all the characters in there, the one you really care about the most. I mean, Peggy is there, Hank is there, all the characters, Bobby is what really gets your attention in the revival. He's grown in the ways you do when you go from 13 and you're a complete idiot to 20 and you're a different kind of complete idiot. It's so nice because he's done so well. We're proud of him. It's weird. If you were ever a fan of King of the Hill, seeing Bobby now, we're so proud of him. You can't help but be. You can't help but be proud of him. He's doing so well for himself, and he's such a nice boy. He's such a nice boy. And he can pull sometimes, too. Bless his heart. And he likes his dad. And like seeing Bobby and Hank, their adult relationship is actually kind of heartwarming. I will say, if you didn't watch this show before, it's probably not going to hit the same now. That really does speak to who the audience for this is. It's very well done. It's lovingly done. There are some good laughs to be had here and there. Bill, in the absence of Peggy and Hank, has become scary in terms of being a shut-in. Weird and funny, but mostly weird, but funny. While I approve of getting an Asian actor to play an Asian character, Ronnie Chang just isn't as funny as Toby Huss is as Khan. He's just not. Because he lacks that sort of whiny imperiousness that made Khan so absolutely grating. Like now he's just kind of, okay, you're there, Khan's there, but he doesn't pack the same punch. It's a little unfortunate. It's not a matter of, oh, he sucks. It's just, I don't know if he was quite right for this one. Speaking of people, they completely waste Keith David. In the time when Peggy and Hank were away, a new character played by Keith David, Keith Goliath David, lives in Hank and Peggy's house in that time. Then he moves out, but he still lives in Ireland. You have Keith David on your cast. Keith.
What's that coming to go?
David. The man's voice is incredible. And his acting is astonishing. They waste him. They just waste him. I hope you're doing something with him next year because there is going to be a 15th season. You got to do something more with Keith David because he's Keith David. And I'm telling you, when you told me Keith David's going to be King of the Hill, I was like, now, and I saw it, I was like, you got to do more with Keith David. Should you watch it? Yeah. If you were a big, if you've watched, I'm not saying even if you're a big fan, if you watched King of the Hill, if you were one of those people, you turned on your set and there was King of the Hill every now and again, and you sort of settled into it like comfort food, like a good bag of potato chips, just the right flavor, all dressed. If you ever did that, this show will be for you because bless his heart, the boy turned out all right. And it's kind of lovely. And you know, right now, we need something like that. And it made me happy. I like that.